when the tzaddik gives a kates, he's in essence doing the same thing. He sees what's going on. He sees spirituality the way we see that ball. And he understands spirituality the way the physicist understands that movement of that ball. And he sees exactly where it's going to land. And that's it. I see it. I see the progress. I see where it's landing. That's the case. I know that's the year Mashiach's coming. And why am I telling this to the Jewish people? To inspire them, to give them hope, to make sure they work for it, because it's coming. So that's all perfect. But then what happens? Well, what happens is there's our end as well. And sometimes with our end, that ball landed, Mashiach came.
You know, we keep saying to like, is it something that's being said to like keep us going? I don't know. Am I making sense?
I totally understand. Oh my gosh, do I remember COVID? I remember that.
Second night, he was supposed to come. Everyone was in their own houses. Like the prophecy was, everyone will be in their own houses.
I remember Motzei Pesach. My feeling was, what? No way. Impossible. Pesach was over and we are not in Geula. I was working then on a video, like a video, an inspirational video re-COVID. And technically, you know, this thing called Pesach came up and this and that. And I probably could have pushed and put it out, but I didn't. And in my head, I'm going to put it out after Pesach. And I remember thinking to myself, what do I mean I'm going to put it out after Pesach? After Pesach, nobody's going to see my video. Like, you know, we're all going to be here as Yisrael. And I'm like, okay, so this is my contribution to the process, and that's fine, you know? It was literally a shock. It wasn't like, we're hopeful. It was like, this is the facts. No question, especially the last day of Pesach is Mashiach's day. The last day, Achron Shel Pesach, Sudas Mashiach. Of course, this is ending with the Geula. Like, no question. And I remember after Pesach, some people I mentioned this to had the exact same feeling. So was there a value to that? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Did the world shift because of that? Absolutely. Does our belief, rock solid, we call that belief. It wasn't, I wouldn't even call it belief. It was like, these are the facts on the table. Like, you know, this is the reality. I feel the same thing here. You know, where I was giving this class or going to give this class, and I'm like, the war ended, however it ended, and now I'm going to talk about the inspiration of the war? Yes, because that enormous high euphoria, miracles, Miriam, I think, said last week, like Eugenie said last week, like you're seeing Kriyas Yamsuf in front of your eyes. She said that at the class last week, and it so resonated. I'm like, that is what's happening. We are seeing Kriyas Yamsuf in front of our eyes. Don't space out. Don't get distracted. We're seeing Kriyas Yamsuf. And then like, what happened? What happened is a lot happened because there's a tremendous spiritual energy that's put out by so much of Klal Yisrael and so many people around the world. So surprise, surprise, there's still haters that will twist everything. We have those that love us. We have those that fear us. We have those that hate us. And I just look straight ahead. Just look straight ahead and try not to watch and read. I know like you like it and I also like it, but I also know that in the end of the day, most of what I watch or read is just going to pull me down. So that's why I just have my carefully vetted Jewish sources that give me the real facts without the negative energy that the world gives. I mean, like, look at this, you know, after the ceasefire, what do all the secular media say? Trump's mad at Israel for breaking the ceasefire. I'm like, hello? You know, Alma de Shikra? What a world of falseness. What a travesty. What an upside down. And then you know what? Not worth my energy. Not worth my time. My energy is moving forward. So the fact that you absolutely believed for a week and saw it unfolding makes a difference. It's almost like when you speak of, when the sages would speak of dates of Mashiach's coming, you know what in the Hebrew we call a kates. Kates means the end. And in the plural, it's called kitzin, actually, not how we would usually put something in the plural. But the sages call it kitzin, which are the dates sages, great sages like Maimonides, have given for the coming of Mashiach. And Lubavitch Rebbe once said, like, what does this mean? Like, you know, I mean, the Alter Rebbe gave a case, Rambam gave a case. I mean, like, you know, people that know what they're talking about. And came and went. What's happening? There was actually once a vignette with the third Lubavitcher Rebbe. Was it the third Lubavitcher Rebbe? No. I think it was the fourth, who became the fourth Rebbe, asking his father, who was the third Rebbe, the Tzemach Tzedek, about the kates, if you can follow these names, of the Alter Rebbe. So the Alter Rebbe gave a deadline, Mashiach's coming by such and such a date, after his lifetime. That date came and went. And who would be the fourth Rebbe asked his father, the third Rebbe, the Rebbe at the time, Tzemach Tzedek, the grandson of the Alter Rebbe, like, what happened? This is the year the Alter Rebbe said Mashiach's coming. And his grandfather replied, well, I think Torah Or was printed this year, a great Hasidic work. That was the revelation of Mashiach. So it happened. And the Rebbe Maharash, who became the Rebbe Maharash, responded to him, that's not the Mashiach we want. When the Alter Rebbe said this and this year Mashiach's coming, we mean we understand. In Israel, temple, kibbutz galuyos, that's what we mean by Mashiach. Not this great Hasidic work was printed. That's definitely a step at bringing Mashiach. We want real deal. So the Lubavitcher Rebbe once spoke about this whole concept, and he explained what does this mean? And what did the Alter Rebbe mean? And what happened then that this great Hasidic work is printed? Is that what he meant? And how could these great sages be wrong? And what are they talking about? What's going on? So how he explained it is that when a tzaddik gives a kates, when a tzaddik gives a deadline and says on such and such a date Mashiach is coming, he's saying it because he sees it. And it's the mashal, I don't know if the Rebbe gave this mashal or I have this mashal in my head, I don't remember. But it could have been the Rebbe gave this mashal, it could be I thought of the mashal from the talk. If you can envision a ball, someone throws a ball, and if you know physics, and you know the velocity and the mass and the rate of movement, you can say exactly where that ball will land. Not because you have prophetic spirit, but because you know the science of all these things that are going to determine exactly the arc of where that ball will land. When the tzaddik gives a kates, he's in essence doing the same thing. He sees what's going on. He sees spirituality the way we see that ball. And he understands spirituality the way the physicist understands that movement of that ball. And he sees exactly where it's going to land. And that's it. I see it. I see the progress. I see where it's landing. That's the case. I know that's the year Mashiach's coming. And why am I telling this to the Jewish people? To inspire them, to give them hope, to make sure they work for it, because it's coming. So that's all perfect. But then what happens? Well, what happens is there's our end as well. And sometimes with our end, that ball landed, Mashiach came, but not in a physical manifestation. All the Jews in Israel, with the temple, with world peace, with Melech HaMashiach ruling the world, none of those stuff. But on a spiritual reality, there actually was a significant shift that made such a difference, we can call it Mashiach arrived. So when the Tzemach Tzedek said to the Rebbe Maharash, when the third Rebbe said to his son, who would be the fourth Rebbe, this and this Sefer, Torah Or, was printed this year, he wasn't being facetious, and it wasn't a blow-off line, God forbid. He was saying there was the revelation of Mashiach. Yes, that's not necessarily what the Alter Rebbe was thinking when he said it's coming this year, but he wasn't wrong in him seeing where the ball would land. But because of perhaps lacks on our part, instead of going to the finish line, it was another shlav. It was another stage, meaning something was accomplished. Every legitimate case, which means every case, every end date for Mashiach given by a tzaddik, something happened that was another step that actually propelled forward Mashiach. So I'm bringing this in, not that there was specifically a Kates last week, but to me it's the exact same thing. There is no way so many people, it wasn't just you, Yael, and it wasn't just me, so many people over the world felt exactly what you felt. Yes, when I said last week, what are your reflections? You said it's Messianic times. So many mouths, I'm sure, were saying those exact words, because how could it not be Messianic times? When you see prophecies being fulfilled, when you see insane miracles, when in one night, all these generals and nuclear scientists and political heads are gone. Like, imagine you're starting the war and knocking off all the generals in the first few minutes. Like, insane. And what I was going to speak about was all the miracles and more miracles and more miracles and more miracles. That's the revelation of Mashiach. So we all, or many of us, felt it. And that belief and that manifestation in the world made a difference, made a huge difference. And that's why we're so close now. So you're like, so close isn't good enough. I agree with you. So close isn't good enough. We need real thing. If you don't get the real thing, what's so close? But we have confidence that's so close. Like you're saying, just like, could Iran ever fall now? Well, look, could Syria ever fall? Could Assad ever fall? No, except guess what? He did. Could Israel destroy Iran's nuclear reactors? No, except guess what? They did. So is everything we're doing making the difference and pushing it through? Yes. I have a vision. Here's my fantasy, not reality, what I'm talking about. It's one of my stories I tell myself, is that when Mashiach comes, there'll be Megillas HaGeula. I mean, why not? There's Megillas Esther, Megillas Rus, Megillas HaGeula. Maybe there won't be. I'm making it up. A scroll. So just like by Megillas Esther, 14 years are condensed into a 40-minute amazing story. And in that amazing story, every one of the dots makes sense. All the lines make sense. We see how this led to this, led to this, led to this, how God is an amazing creative script writer. In my fantasy of Megillas HaGeula is going to be the same way. And so many different things that we've lived through. So many things happen, and sometimes I'm like, I know this has to do with the kind of Mashiach, but I don't know how. And we're just going to hear the whole story, and we'll see all the dots, and like even things like not spiritual things. Just I remember a number of years ago, but there was like for 3 days there was a power outage in New York. Insanity. I don't know. I think maybe like a squirrel bit a wire. I don't know. Whatever happened, I don't know. And I remember sitting in Chicago feeling almost guilty that we're comfortably with our lights and electricity in Chicago when I know what's going on in New York, but thinking, Hashem, this is for sure part of Megillas HaGeula. Nothing's random in your world. So many humans, so many Jews affected. There's a reason you're doing this. Everything is precise. Everything. Like I tell my daughter who's in Eretz Yisrael, not stuck, because we're not stuck. And it was like so, if the war had started a little later, she would have been home. If the war had continued, she had a flight she would have been on, but because the war stopped, and that flight stopped, and, every detail. And I'm like, every detail is precise. Every detail is part of Hashem's plan for all of us and for each one of us. So every belief and confidence and certainty we all had made a difference. And what you're saying, didn't the world see? The non-haters saw. Haters will never see. Whatever we do, they'll never see. It's sort of like, I don't know, I think we were saying recently, in the 30s, in Europe, in Russia, the Jews are socialists because they're communists. In Germany, the Jews are communists because they're socialists. In Russia, the Jews are rich because they hate the rich. In Poland, the Jews are poor because they hate the poor. Haters, whatever we do, they're going to hate. So we don't think about the haters. But for the rest of the world, remember what I said last week? I don't know if you remember. I said it in 76 after Entebbe. The Rebbe said that when Jews behave beyond nature, within nature, which is exactly Entebbe and exactly this war, fearlessly, was exactly Entebbe, insane fearlessness, and exactly this war where now we even know that they also had troops on the ground. That just came out today, if you noticed that, if you heard that. There were IDF soldiers on the ground in Iran, not only the Mossad agents, yes, our boots were on the ground there. So beyond nature, within nature, fearlessly, God makes miracles, totally made miracles by Entebbe, totally made miracles these past 12 days. And the world recognizes there's a master to the world, which means that even though haters, who are haters? Haters are haters of God and therefore haters of us, God's chosen people, God's representative, even though the Christians like to say we lost it. But the haters know we're God's representative. So a hater hates God and therefore hates the Jews. But someone who's not a hater, yes, they saw. And even though some people are saying, oh, what Israel did, now all the armies of the world are going to duplicate it, I think they know that's garbage. And no army of the world would ever be able to duplicate it. And I don't even know if any army of the world would try. Just like no army could duplicate Entebbe. And America tried. And they had months to prepare. And they couldn't duplicate Entebbe. Or a story I heard this week that obviously isn't current, but I think I've actually heard it before. But it's a very powerful point. Maybe it is current. If any of you saw this week, was going around some religious neighborhood somewhere in Israel where they have like a lot of, like ultra Orthodox, religious people. And also there's an army something nearby in connection with the Iron Dome. So they have a lot of army people there also in the neighborhood, sort of a mixed, blended neighborhood. And this woman saw at her makolet at the grocery store, a man who obviously looked like, as we would call, a koilel person, poor, ultra-religious Jew, probably with big family and big shopping cart full of food. And behind him was someone that looked like clearly from the army. And they were in line to pay. The army person said to the koilel man, I want to pay your bill. He's like, why do you want to pay my bill? Like, you don't even know me. I don't mind. Thanks a lot, but why? And he said, I work with the Iron Dome. And when the war broke out in Ukraine, I was sent by Israel to set up an Iron Dome for Ukraine. And I did. And then I came back to Israel. And we saw that something's clearly wrong. Because in Ukraine, the Iron Dome is 50% effective. And in Israel, the Iron Dome is 95% effective. So they're like obviously something's wrong. And they sent me back to Ukraine. Like, what did I do wrong? What's wrong that the Iron Dome, there's only 50% effective when else it's 95% effective? And I cross-checked every single step, every single part, everything in the Iron Dome in Ukraine. And it's all exactly like the Iron Dome in Israel. And in Ukraine, it's 50% effective. And Israel's 95% effective. And I came back home and I was really thinking about this. What is the difference between the Iron Dome in Israel and the Iron Dome in Ukraine? And the only difference I came up with is, he pointed to this guy, people like you. That's the difference. People like you are the difference. And that's why I want to pay for your groceries. So that's the Rebbe's point. When these things happen, yes, when Israel in one night manages to take off the whole army heads and political regime and scientists and take out these nuclear reactors, I mean, like, everything Israel did, whatever credit America got, trust me, it's Israel from beginning to end. No army can duplicate that. No army is going to duplicate that. No army can duplicate that. Because we use military strategy, and we should use military strategy, and we should use the best military strategy, and none of this makes sense. It only makes sense because there's a God. So the non-haters of the world saw, processed, changed. If change means they're scared to start up, if change means they respect, if change means they're going to support. Different people are holding in different places. But yes, so was there an impact on the world? Was God wasting his miracles? No, there was an impact on the world. God was not wasting his miracles. And was our belief and absolute certainty that Mashiach's coming a waste because nothing happened? Belief is never a waste. Every drop of belief we have makes it happen. Every drop of belief we have makes it happen. And I know, obviously with the ceasefire, there was a lot of not knowing how to process it. So I'm going to give you my personal feeling. This is, again, my personal feelings, and I have no inside sources. It's just my personal feelings, and anyone can share their personal feelings. But I said to myself, this entire world is Hashem. This entire war was Hashem. If anyone thinks it's just because of the amazing IDF and Mossad, oh my gosh, they have no clue what's going on. This entire war was Hashem. And therefore, the ceasefire is also Hashem. It's the same Hashem, No, here it's human beings, and Netanyahu crumbled under Trump's pressure, and Trump just has this ego trip and wants to get a Nobel Prize, and Trump is a puppet. Netanyahu's not a puppet because he's a Jew, but God runs the world. And if we so clearly saw that the whole war was Hashem, obviously everything is Hashem, but unbelievable revelation of Hashem, the ceasefire has to be part of that same story. So therefore, I said to myself, if the ceasefire holds, and who knows, that means we did what we were supposed to do. The evil we were supposed to destroy got destroyed, and it doesn't make a difference what CNN says. We did destroy them. We did stop the nuclear. We did remove the ballistics threat. We did create tremendous weakness that regime is just fractured and cracking all over. We accomplished all the goals. I don't know if all Netanyahu's goals, we accomplished all of God's goals. And if we didn't accomplish God's goals, then the ceasefire will fall apart, and we'll go back in and finish it off. But I know there is a sense, and of course this has happened before, and the Lubavitcher Rebbe has spoken very strongly of when Israel could have, should have, and didn't, and the Rebbe was like, just finish off the job. And I'm not going there now. If I heard the Rebbe say it, I would go there, but since I'm not, I'm saying no, this is God's war. And if the ceasefire holds, we accomplish what Hashem wanted us to accomplish. And if the ceasefire falls apart, we didn't. And that's why we're going to continue fighting and finish it off. Eliza?
As you were saying what you just said, what hit me was it's not only accomplishing the physical goals, but when we view everything through the lens of, as you said, this is Hashem's war, it's Hashem's puppets, it's Hashem's puppet mastery. If that's the lens through which we view everything, that's the ultimate and the accomplishment.